Welcome to Retirement Ramblings. I'm Scott, and today is day 81 on my countdown to retirement. So today, I ended up researching various options and ended up placing an order for some international equity exposure using symbol FNDF. And then I keep going back and forth between purchasing the Vanguard Total World Stock Index Fund, symbol VT, or the Total Stock Market Fund ETF, symbol VTI, or just adding to the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, symbol VOO. So I'm thinking I should go with VTI, but I can't seem to pull the trigger. So I went out and, basically asked Grok, my, AI assistant, what he or she thinks I should do, or what a retiree should do, when you're comparing these three symbols. What would be the recommendation and why? And so pretty much Grok said, pull the trigger on VTI because it has superior diversification in the US. It balances risk and reward. It has 3,700 holdings versus 500 in the VOO. It's got similar volatility to VOO, as roughly 80% of the stocks in VTI come from VOO. It also has a similar Sharpe ratio to VOO, and it has rock bottom fees at 0.03%. And then I said, well, if I wanted to, let's assume I go with that, and I wanted to balance out and diversify and minimize volatility, what would you recommend I do? And then it came back and said, I think you should invest a certain percentage in BNDX, which is the Vanguard Total International Bond ETF, which provides exposure to 6,000 investment grade bonds in developed and emerging markets, and it excludes the US, and it has currency hedging for the US dollar for stability. And then you should add the BND, which is the US component, which has 10,000 US investment grade bonds, including US Treasuries, mortgage-backed securities, corporate bonds with an average duration of 6 years. So, I looked at those, and, it gave me some other suggestions to go along if I didn't like those. But I just find that, using an AI assistant gives you reasonable suggestions for you to be able to research, and do your own subsequent analysis before you pull the trigger. But I find it gives you as good and sometimes better recommendations than if you're talking to a financial services professional. So I'm curious what you guys think. Would you trust the advice from an AI assistant, whether it's Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, or whatever, or whatever other one you may use? Just curious. And then I took my wife out to lunch, and following lunch, she asked me if we could go by Costco, and I said sure, because she wanted to check on a specific piece of jewelry that she's been looking at, and she had some money that she had set aside specifically for the purchase, and she was like, I guess, ready today to potentially pull the trigger. So we went there, and she was super disappointed because the price of the piece of jewelry she was looking at went up by $200 in the last 2 weeks. And she asked one of the associates there, like, what the deal was. And apparently, because price of gold has gone up, so much in the last 30 days to cross the $4,000 an ounce range, all the jewelry in the Costco counter that has gold in it went up in price by a considerable amount. So, like I said, she was super bummed because, her expectation was, I guess, that she was going to be able to get it today, and, she wasn't willing to pay the extra money for that particular piece of jewelry. And I did let her know that, gold, like everything else, it goes up, it goes down, right? Like, she might have to wait a little bit, but it more than likely, will come down. I have a hard time believing that in the short term anyway, that it's going to stay above 4,000 for a considerable point in time. My expectation is once certain things stabilize, it'll drop back down. I don't expect it to go all the way back down to like 3,300, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it dropped down to like 3,700, somewhere around that. So anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. But it brings me to, a discussion point that I thought I would raise with you guys. And it was something we also were discussing today, which is, I feel like people's happiness seems to tie in directly to their level of expectations about whatever something might be. So, if you're going on a trip and you have a certain expectations and those expectations aren't met on the trip, then potentially you think the trip sucked. Or, you like my wife's case, she had expectations about being able to buy something and then she couldn't, or, I was talking to my mom tonight and we were talking about this particular doctor she goes to who's a concierge doctor. And she was like, her expectation was that the waiting room would be a certain way, because the fact that you were paying this doctor for the ability to, come see him. So, and I know that, Warren Buffett was famously had said to a bunch of younger people, when they were talking about marriage, and he said, the best way to make sure that your marriage lasts is to find a woman who has low expectations. So therefore, she's not expecting that much from you. So the likelihood of you having a marriage that lasts a long time is better. And I'm sure he was joking at the time. But, it does play out that if you, have expectations that are, moderate or low, or that are easily exceeded, that your level of satisfaction with whatever it is that you're doing goes up. And I'm just curious if you guys agree and you think I'm way off base with that. So if you have any comments about that, leave them in the comments section down below. Anyway, that's my update for today. So again, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section down below or drop me an email at myretirementramblings@gmail.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great evening, and until tomorrow, take care.